Hey YouTube, fair warning on this one. Go make a cup of tea, relax, and prepare to watch this whole video, which will be an explosion of British sovereigns. Really nice British sovereigns. And you've seen these kind of videos before, and these sovereigns were put in for grading by the same avid sovereign collector from the Silver Forum. And there are in fact two of these videos I'm going to put up, because the number of these sovereigns was quite significant. Again, this is a large collection being gradually graded at NGC by a Silver Forum member, Mr. Paul here. Paul here, that's his name, Paul here. And he does package these sovereigns up beautifully in kitchen paper, a real work of art in packaging. And he is a very precise person, clearly, and he collects the most amazing quality sovereigns, and by focusing on quality he has had some amazing results so far. Some of the sovereigns that have been graded from his collection have been pretty much at the top, if not the top of the NGC grading of sovereigns so far. So good things are expected of this next batch of sovereigns. And if you are thinking about adding sovereigns to your collection, then pay very special attention to some of these coins, because they really do show you what to look out for. And the thing that strikes me when I looked at these coins for the first time, and some of the others that he sent, is just how different they are to the so-called tip-top condition coins that you see on eBay being sold quite often as EF or uncirculated, or some of these descriptions are pretty meaningless that they give to coins on eBay anyway. And sometimes maybe if you're looking at just one coin, you can't see the blemishes and you can't see what a good one should look like. So keep this video as a reference point for comparing the pictures of sovereigns that you may pick up in other places, or on eBay, or from dealers, or at coin shows, and then reference them to the coins that are in this video, because I think by doing that you will see that maybe that coin you thought was maybe a 61 or a 62 might actually be a 58, and because some of these coins, every one of them is a great example of its type. So there are 21 coins here in this package, and let's have a look through them. One of the things I like about getting coins in from Mr. Paul here is that he puts them in these great safe lips, which saves me the job and saves me using up all my safe lips, because when coins come in I tend to take them out of the capsules and put them in to these non-PVC flips, which are pretty expensive, because I think that's the best way to send them over to NGC. And then he writes a very clear, detailed description of what should be, how they should be graded, what the SPINC coin catalogue number is, and anything about them which is unique that I should be aware of for putting them into grading. But mostly the coins are uncirculated. If there are any really rare dates, then perhaps they get put in as a little bit below this condition. But what he looks for is uncirculated condition, no wear if possible on the coin, and very clear fields with minimal bag marks. And you can see lots of luster. If you get that cartwheel luster, then that's a good sign that it hasn't been cleaned or tampered with. The coins need to look fresh. And sometimes coins that are sold on eBay that have had dubious kind of backgrounds, they can look kind of uncirculated, but they look a bit flat as well. And I will now tend to avoid those kind of coins unless they're particularly rare or particularly good value. And obviously with gold, there is a minimum amount of money that it's possible to buy one of these sovereigns for because of the gold value. You're getting quite a large chunk of gold, almost a quarter of an ounce of gold in each one. So that does impose a minimum on these, even if you can almost not even see the portrait because they're so worn. So as you can see, some of these are varieties, some of these are regular. There's a lot of very detailed varieties that are around these Jubilee sovereigns. I think if you look on Sovereign Rarities website, SOVR, Sovereign Rarities, they've got quite a lot of information about the different 1887 varieties, some of which only had a mintage of maybe 7,000 coins or less. Personally, I find it quite hard sometimes to see these varieties actually in the coin. You need to kind of look under a loop. My own preference for these is to go for rarer dates, which are more obvious to people when they're looking for particular sovereigns to buy, or rare mints or rare types. That's one of the nice things about collecting sovereigns, in the sense that there are so many different aspects to it. One of the reasons that so many people get involved in this, and that they all have different focuses to their collections. So nobody could ever say collecting sovereigns was in any way boring. So what stops people from collecting sovereigns? Well, clearly the number one thing that stops people is that the entry point is actually quite significant. And, £240 or so, $310 roughly is the entry point for even a bad condition bullion sovereign. And if you want to build up a collection, that does imply having more than one. And so, you're talking about $5,000 to $10,000 to build up, maybe a small typeset. And unlike a lot of aspects of coin collecting, it is not a hobby for people who have no savings and no cash flow, because it does require quite a lot of cash commitment to be able to do it. On the other side of that, it is a great way of building over time an element of wealth up that you wouldn't otherwise have. And I would certainly collect sovereigns over some of the silver older coins that are around. You know that the gold content of the sovereign imposes a minimum cost on it, minimum value on it, and B, I think that sovereigns are much easier in many ways to trade than cheaper coins and many silver coins. I think that what I'm finding, or what I have found in building a collection of gold coins particularly, is that any time I want to sell a gold coin, it takes 5 minutes to find a buyer for a gold coin. Literally, there are always people who want to buy these things. Liquidity is very, very high. Silver proofs, for example, don't have the same liquidity. There aren't nearly the same number of people who want to buy your silver bullion or silver proofs. I think that there is an element of safety in gold coins, and particularly in the UK, where people recognise these coins much more, there is an element of safety in gold sovereigns which is unsurpassed. And although some of the numismatic ones, the value of them is not so much of a known, it's very subjective, and therefore there are more difficulties in that. Certainly, if you aim for sovereigns that are only a little bit over bullion, and you buy the best ones that you possibly can, particularly things which are still pretty cheap, like the early Queen Elizabeth sovereigns and the King sovereigns, I think that's a great way of building a collection. Some of these beautiful sovereigns you're seeing here in this video, they're going to be expensive. They're going to be a premium of between 20 and 100% or 150% of the bullion value. Not everybody thinks it's worth investing in quality and paying that kind of premium. You have to be a bit more of an avid collector. But if you are thinking about starting in sovereigns and building a collection, then I would say go for the nicest quality, most perfect bullion sovereigns you can find with no blemishes, because they will have a premium. Go for the 2002, 2005, 2012, 2017, 1989. Go for those special year sovereigns. A lot of people are showing an interest in those and picking them out and collecting them, and then maintaining their premium nicely. And if you do come across one or two sovereigns which are older, but like these, have, you know, for example, the Victorian sovereigns where all the bands in her hair are showing beautifully, where there's no major clashes of other coins in the bags that have damaged the devices or the fields. You know, things like that. If a coin looks good, if it feels good, if it's got good luster, you know, and it's not too much of a premium, then that's pretty good. Let's pause that just to look at this particular coin, because this one's a variety and one I particularly like. I like these variety sovereigns, and particularly this one, which has got an overdate as well. And I've got a few overdates in my own little collection. And this one's got it's Portrait 2. It's a wider date. It's got an overdate. It's got like several different aspects of it. So it's meant to be an 8/7, and it's always fun actually looking a little bit close up of some of these coins and spotting the overdates, because some of them are quite difficult to spot without even a microscope. So let's zoom in on this one and take a little bit of a look at the date and see whether we can find the overdate and see what it looks like. Okay, so what can you guys see? Okay, let's get a little bit closer. Okay, do you see just the second 8? And do you see just behind the second 8, you've got the angle, the sharp angle of the 7. So this one is a really, really easy overdate to get graded. NGC will have no problem at all seeing that, and it should be graded with the overdate, which is really nice. And a lot of the overdates are recognised varieties inside the Marsh and the new Marsh guide, which has got lots of overdate varieties and how rare they are. But be interesting to hear from you guys what your favourite sovereigns are, because I know a lot of people who've been watching these sovereign videos have now put their toe in the water, bought their first sovereign or two. You know, is this something you're going to build on? Are you just happy to have one sovereign in a world collection? Is most of your collection US gold? What do you think of pre-33 gold? Are you going off your pre-33 gold? Pre-33 is a very good value at the moment. The margins are very low, but you know, I've got quite a few of the different types of pre-33, and unless you start to really go for rare coins, it becomes a fabulously expensive way of spending money on coins, and I'm not 100% committed to that. In a way, I prefer to look for other things that may become more valuable over time. And my view of sovereigns is the more they become a world collector coin and the more they become graded, I think that the values of them will start to rise. And you're certainly seeing quite a lot of the rare varieties of sovereigns increasing in value. This one is a pretty rare coin. I think in the list of values that Mr. Poole here has given me, I think he's probably undervalued slightly, this one. I was aiming for one on eBay that sold, which wasn't nearly as good as this, yesterday, and it sold for £713, I think it was. So these can be worth up to £1,000, I would have thought. These are, I think, rare too in Marsh. But all of these Melbourne Shields are some of my favourites, and I'm always on the lookout for these at a good price, although in fairness I don't see them at a good price. I've got an 1882, I've got two 1884s, I would like an 1881, 83, 86, 87, but it's going to have to come. So 1841, that was a magical year when it comes to sovereigns. This one is a half sovereign. If this had been an 1841 sovereign, it would be worth something like $15,000 to $40,000, something like that. big margin, but it's one of the rarest years as a full sovereign. I think it's still pretty valuable as a half sovereign, but not nearly as valuable as the 1841, which is along with maybe 1839, 1838. There are some very, very good years for sovereigns. If you ever see one, keep it. And I'm certainly on the lookout for those years gradually, although I don't think I will ever probably get to own an 1841. The early years are always worth looking for. Some of them are still very common. Some of them are a little bit rarer. But condition is everything, because collectors love to buy sovereigns, shieldback sovereigns. If they can get a 63, 64, 65, 66, they go into the absolute upper echelon of sovereigns, of shieldbacks. And some of these will undoubtedly get 63 or greater, I would have thought. Isn't it nice to see such great coins? I mean, look at the clarity of that. It just looks so pretty. I think that you can't really go far wrong if you focus on buying the very best coins. And it's interesting watching auctions like HA.com. There are quite a few sovereigns sold on the Heritage website, either at their signature auctions or their regular internet auctions. And any time these coins get graded well, they fetch a very, very good price with lots of people bidding, lots of interest. So I really do think that with sovereigns, it pays to either be, at the bottom of the market in terms of bullion, just a bit over bullion, which are very easily tradable as kind of, in a liquid way throughout the forums and on the internet. And then at the upper end, to focus on rarities and condition rarities, because they will also be very, very liquid and very, very saleable, because there are so many people who then collect the very best of these coins. I think the kind of, not really a dodgy part of the market, but the part of the market which is in the middle of, just a little bit better, a little bit of a premium, I think that's not nearly as strong in many ways as the market right at the top for these coins. And as I've said before in other videos, there's still the potential of finding these great coins in MS grade amongst bulk lots of sovereigns that come onto the market, because generally most of the sovereigns that are around have not yet been graded. So it does make sense to gradually grade the best of them, and inevitably the populations will then creep up and we'll see what the real rarity of some of these coins actually is, because at the moment probably only a very, very small proportion of sovereigns have been graded. You just saw an 1859 there. I bought an 1859 at auction myself for just over £400 6 months ago. This one that's been graded by this guy is even better than mine, and I think mine got an AU 55. This one will get an MS grade, I would have thought, maybe a 58 or a 61. It didn't look perfect, but it's better than the one I had. So I hope you're enjoying watching these sovereigns. If you're watching on a high definition television, then you should be able to see this in 4K. I'm probably going to upgrade my own computer actually at home to actually let me watch these stuff in 4K on the computer, because at the moment I don't have a graphics card or a monitor which is capable of even seeing the stuff that I'm producing in 4K. It's only if you have a suitable TV or a suitable graphic card and monitor set up you can. So that brings us to the end of video number 1. There will be another one, video number 2, which contains another 17 or 18 of these amazing coins. And hopefully you're learning more and more, like me, about sovereigns all the time. Let me know what you guys think, and please like and please subscribe, and above all, please comment and let everyone else know what you feel.